So the big question now, and probably for the next couple of months, is who is going to be the next Prime Minister? Well, one of the first to throw a hat into that ring was Tom Tugendhat, a former soldier who fought with special forces in Iraq. And more recently, he was chair of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee. No fan of Boris Johnson towards the end of his tenure. He says he would deliver a fresh start, stand up for the Union and beat Labour and the SNP. Well, let's speak to him just now. There he is. Tom Tugendhat, good morning. Thanks very much for being with us.
Good to be in Glasgow, virtually.
Yeah, exactly, virtually. So listen, in 30 seconds, let's just start with this. In 30 seconds, just tell us who you are and why the Scottish Tories should back you to become their new leader and everyone's new Prime Minister.
Well, look, it's great to be with you, and I must say I'm delighted by the support I've already got from the Scottish Tories, and the Herald has been covering it this morning, which is extremely kind. And the reality is, the reason they're backing me is because they know I am a passionate unionist. The whole of our country, all across our islands, matter to us, because this is where I was recruited from. This is where the people I served alongside in combat were recruited from. This is the land that has bred so many brilliant ideas, amazing innovations, and given us the opportunity to thrive and to see a better future. So This is the land I am looking to lead and the country that I wish to champion.
Yeah, you've said we're the only party who the voters can trust to stand up for the Union and Scotland's role in it. What is Scotland's role in the Union?
Scotland's role in the Union is essential. Scotland has supplied more prime ministers, more engineers, more innovators, more bankers, more companies. Scotland has been essential to the Union from the very beginning. In many ways, this is a Scottish Union more than an English Union. It's all about the ideas that so many people across these islands have generated together, and the way that they have spread around the world and actually developed the new form of liberty that we have seen spread over the last 70, 80 years. These are, in many ways, Scottish ideas. The principles of human rights that came out of that wonderful Edinburgh lawyer, Maxwell Fyfe. You know, the principles of free trade that came out of course, Adam Smith. You know, these are fantastic exports of Scotland through the Union as part of Great Britain, as part of the United Kingdom, to the whole world.
You say it's a Scottish union perhaps more than it's an English union. Is it a voluntary union?
Of course it's a voluntary union.
So why can't one member decide it wants to walk away from the club?
There's no rule, and nobody's saying that can't happen.
But your party is saying that can't happen specifically.
That's not true. What we're saying simply is that you can't keep asking the same question, hoping for a different answer. What this is all about...
Well, sorry, Mr. Tugendhat, please let me stop you right there. You're saying it can happen. How can it happen? What is the legal pathway for Scotland to walk away from the Union?
You know the legal pathway. It's Section 30 orders and all the rest of it. You know that. Hang on a minute. You know all of that. You know all of that. You don't need me to take you through the legals. What you're actually arguing is you're arguing that the polls aren't pointing in the direction that the SNP wish, and actually they're failing in education and they're failing in healthcare, and now they're trying to distract by talking about separation again. I'm afraid this is a cheap political play. What we really need to be talking about is the success of Scottish students and the success of Scottish doctors and nurses, and the ability to help them to do even better. What we need to do is to make people succeed, not tear them apart. And I think that's exactly what the Conservative Party, what Scottish Conservatives and I as the leader of the Conservative Party in Westminster would be doing, because what we're talking about here is the success of the entire United Kingdom, the whole community, and bringing together and bringing out what makes us so much stronger, the National Health Service, the British Army that I was so lucky to serve in, and all those wonderful, wonderful people, ideas and economic ties that make us better and stronger.
Let me ask you this. If you want to become the next Prime Minister, the bookmakers suggest you're one of the favourite candidates. If you were, under what circumstances would you be prepared to grant Scotland a Section 30 order, a referendum?
Look, I'm not going to get into hypotheticals in the future. What I'm interested in is delivering now. What I really care about
is a really important question. If you want to bring people on side and impress people who might not naturally be drawn to you in Scotland, you have to address that issue. Under what circumstances would you grant a referendum?
You'll forgive me. I think what I really need to address is what people care about now. There's more month at the end of the pay packet than there should be. We're seeing an economic difficulty that we're all struggling with, whether you're in Glasgow or in Canterbury. We're all feeling the fact that it's now £2 a litre for petrol. I don't know about you, but I notice it. We're all feeling the fact that gas prices are rising, and you're going to feel it more, sadly, in Scotland than you are in communities like Kent, because it gets colder earlier. You know, the reality is these are the issues we need to be dealing with.
So is your party going to address that?
Of course, we need to be absolutely passionate about addressing the long-term economic strategy that we need for this country. We need a 10-year economic plan for growth. And that's what I'm going to be setting out, because we need an economy that is more resilient, that is fairer, and of course that is stronger. We need to make sure that this 10-year economic plan delivers across the whole of the United Kingdom, delivers for every community, and make sure we support businesses and families.
Let me pick up on that one example that you gave us in there. Would you, as Prime Minister, increase the money that comes here to perhaps make allowance for the fact that it gets colder in the Highlands than it does in the South East?
Look, I've already spoken about lowering fuel tax, which is an incredibly important thing to do for our entire economy, because, as you rightly say,
doesn't
it
reflect
underpins
that imbalance that you just brought up.
But it does, of course it does, because the more fuel you use, the higher tax you pay. So that's exactly what it does. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that we look at how we make this economy grow, how we support families across the whole of the United Kingdom, how we treat everybody fairly and equally and make the economy stronger. That's what a 10-year economic plan is all about. That's why we need a clean start.
Cutting taxes is a fairy tale.
Well, we need a clean start, frankly, because we can't keep going over the old arguments. What we need to be doing is we need to be talking about returning the government to the service of the British people, returning the Conservative Party to the service of the British people, and championing those fantastic Conservative voices that we have across the United Kingdom, and particularly in Scotland. You know, we have some fantastic Conservative representatives across the communities, and I would love to see their voices championed, their policies delivered, and through that, a much stronger, much fairer, much more resilient British economy.
Let me talk to you about one of those Conservative voices, the voice, arguably, that is the kind of the tip of the spear of the Conservative Party up here, Alistair Jack, the Scottish Secretary. We've been on air, and this is not just a self-indulgent question, I'm getting to a point. This programme has been on air for 18 months now. We are, I would like to think, the big political discussion programme in Scotland. Quite. We asked for him to come on here repeatedly. He's been on here twice in 18 months. We might not ask for him to invite him every week, but we invite him routinely. We've had him twice. We've had 2 Scotland Office ministers once each in 18 months, and this is the UK government trying to project itself in Scotland. Is that good enough?
Well, look, I have been an MP for Kent now for 7 years, and I've been chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee, answering for the whole of Parliament on foreign affairs for the last 5. And I've been on your show, I've been on other shows in Scotland on a pretty frequent basis.
Sure, but the Scottish Secretary is being empty-chaired by me week in, week out. We invited him on, he wasn't available. Is that good enough? Let me broaden this question out. He is Boris Johnson's right-hand man, limpet-like in Downing Street, before that resignation speech and in Downing Street beside him after that resignation speech. If you were Prime Minister, would you keep Alistair Jack on?
Look, Douglas is the elected leader of the Scottish Conservatives, and Douglas speaks for us in Holyrood and does, I think, a really good job of championing not just Scottish issues in Holyrood, but the issues of the United Kingdom in Holyrood. He's a great British politician. He's a fantastic leader for Scotland, and I must say I am absolutely delighted to be working with many Scottish parliamentarians in the Scottish Parliament and in the UK Parliament, and to have voices like his around. I think they're really important.
OK, the fight begins now. This has been an absolute circus over the last few days. Parliament resumes tomorrow. The business of governing the country resumes tomorrow, but actually it's going to be overshadowed by the fight for the leadership. How venal, how dirty is this fight going to become? Because we're hearing already suggestions that candidates are briefing against other candidates, even handing dossiers about other candidates to the Labour Party with all sorts of grubby allegations on them. This is going to become really very unseemly, isn't it?
Well, I really hope not, because that would be really extremely destructive behaviour, not just for individuals, but for the party and for the country. The reality is we need to get beyond the divisions that have dominated our lives. You know, we've seen those divisions propped up by the SNP in Scotland, propped up by others in the rest of the United Kingdom. We need to get beyond that. We need a clean start. We need to return the government, not to those old arguments, but return it to the service of the British people, and return the Conservative Party to serving the interests and delivering for the British people across all our islands.
That's an answer I suspect you had up your sleeve before you came on. How dirty is the fight going to get is what I want to know.
I don't know, because I'm not going to be doing any of that, and I hope very much that nobody else will.
Is it not useful in a way that actually, if there is dirt on people, we find out about them before they come into office?
Well, it's certainly a journalist's job to ask questions, and that's exactly what you're doing to me. And I'm very happy to answer them, and I'm very happy to answer questions from people who have them. I mean, that's, you know, I think it's perfectly legitimate to hold politicians to account. It's essential, and the job of journalism is one of the pillars of democracy. So I'm absolutely passionate about that. But we really do need a clean start, and we don't get a clean start by just raking over old grounds between ourselves. We get a clean start by having a fresh face, a fresh leadership, new ideas, a 10-year economic plan that delivers for growth, and then a return to service, a government that works for the British people across these islands, and of course, a return to service by the Conservative Party.
I think I detected an almost weary sigh there already, Tom Tugendhat. If it
Not
was,
a bit of it.
you better get ready.
Not a bit of it. No, I'm full of energy for this. We need to serve, and I'm ready to lead this country.
All right. Well, listen, we're going to hear a lot more from you and see a lot more of you, I'm sure, over the weeks ahead. Thanks very much indeed for being with us on the Sunday show this morning.
Thank you. It's nice to be with you.
Tom Tugendhat there.